This video describes how to create a user directory in a sample CA IdentityMinder environment. We are going to refer to the NeedAuto, a sample CA IdentityMinder environment throughout the demo. The purpose of using this sample environment is to understand the configuration process and to create an environment to manage a real user store. The sample CA IdentityMinder environment includes the following users. Superadmin, the user account with a system manager role who can perform all default admin tasks. Self-reg user, the administrator account that CA IdentityMinder uses to enable self-registration for the CA IdentityMinder environment. Based on the assigned roles, certain tasks appear when the user logs in. A CA IdentityMinder directory provides information that describes how objects such as users, groups, and organizations are stored in the user store. As a superadmin, you will create the user directory for NeedAuto. The flowchart here shows the various steps we need to do to configure the NeedAuto sample environment. In this video we are going to focus on create the user directory. First, let's create the NeedAuto CA IdentityMinder directory. Let's begin. We will create a new CA directory instance to use it as a user store for sample NetAuto organization. Click Start, All Programs, CA, IdentityMinder, IdentityMinder Management Console. The Identity Manager Management Console gets displayed. To manage the configuration for a user store, click the directories link. Click Create from Wizard. You are prompted to select the directory configuration file to configure the user store. To locate the directory.xml, click Browse. The default location is Admin Tools, Directory Templates, Directory. Select the directory.xml file. Click Open. Click Next. On the Connection Details page, specify connection information for the LDAP such as name, host name, port, the user domain name. Also, specify the directory search parameters of the user directory to which you are connecting, and fill over connections information. Then, click Next. On the Configure Managed Object page, select the Configure User Object. In this process, you need to specify how users are stored in the user store and how they are represented in CA IdentityMinder. Then, click Next. Use the Select User Attributes page to change or add structural and auxiliary classes for your user. This page is pre-configured with values based on common directory schemas and best practices for the type of directory you are using. To configure the user object, select the checkboxes next to Business Category, Car License, Description, Destination Indicator, Display Name, Home Phone, Initials. Also select labeled URI, OU, Physical Delivery Office Name, Post Office Box, Preferred Delivery Method, and Preferred Language. Click Next. Use this page to map CA IdentityMinder well-known attributes to selected LDAP attributes. Here, specify the mappings for all the fields. After specifying the mappings, click Next. Use this page to view and modify the commonly defined definitions, display name and description. Then, click Next. Similarly, on the User Attribute Details page, specify other attribute definitions, and click Next. You have finished configuring the user object. Now, select Configure Group Object to define how groups needs to stored in the user store and how they needs to be represented in CA IdentityMinder. Then, click Next. On the Select Group Attributes page, select the required attributes. Select the checkboxes next to Business Category, OU, See Also. Then, click Next. On the Map Group Well-Known Attributes page, specify the required mappings. After specifying, click Next. The list of selected attributes gets displayed. Click Next. On the Describe Group Attributes page, review display name and description. Then, click Next. Review the Group Attribute Details page. Then, click Next. You have finished configuring the group object. Now, select Configure Organization Object to specify how organizations needs to be stored and represented in IdentityMinder. Then, click Next. Review the selected organization attributes. Then, click Next. On the Map Organization Well-Known Attributes page, specify the mappings and click Next. On the Describe Organization Attributes page, review the display name and description. Then, click Next. Review the Organization Attribute Details page and click Next. You have defined all managed objects and now you want to deploy the directory. Select Show Summary and Deploy Directory and click Next. This page shows the summary of connection details, user, group and organization details. And click Finish to create the user directory. The configuration is validated and the directory is created. Click Continue. You are then taken back to the directories listing page where the new directory is listed. To edit or export the new directory, select it from the directory list. Now, let's create a provisioning directory. Again, click Create from Wizard. To locate the directory XML, click Browse. Navigate to locate the directory.xml file. By default, it is stored in the directory Templates, Provisioning Server in the Administrative Tools folder. Select the directory.xml file. Click Open. Click Next. Use Connection Details page to enter the configuration credentials for your provisioning store. Enter the required details such as name, host, port, domain, username and password. You can also enter the directory search parameters. Then, click Next. Select Configure User Object to manage users for provisioning store. Then, click Next. You need to repeat the same steps that you performed while creating the user directory. So, for the provisioning directory, configure the users as required on the Select User Attributes page, on the Map User Well-Known Attributes page, on the Describe User Attributes page, and finally on the User Attribute Details page. Similarly, select the Configure Group Objects to manage groups for provisioning store and click Next. Alike users, configure the group objects as required on the Select Group Attributes page, on the Map Group Well-Known Attributes page, on the Describe Group Attributes page, and finally, on the Group Attribute Details page. You have defined all managed objects and now you want to deploy the directory. So, select Show Summary and Deploy Directory. Then, click Next. This page shows a summary of the provisioning directory details, connection details, user or group details. If all of the directory details are correct, click Finish to exit the wizard. The configuration is validated and the provisioning directory is created. Click Continue. You are then taken back to the directories listing page where the new directory is listed. You can click the name of the IdentityMinder directory to view the details. Thank you for watching this video. To learn more, check the How to Create the IdentityMinder environment video on the CA Educate channel.